What, when you get a sort of typical westernized Englishman coming to you, what is the most important thing you have to teach? Is it concentration?
No, just allowing the mind to take its natural course, just that. See, it will be surprising. Someone one day started to meditate. Next day he came for checking, and he said, I feel wonderful. I slept very deep, and the whole thing is good. But tell me what you have taught me. I said nothing. Because the process of thinking has not to be learned. We are used to think. We know how to think from birth.
I got a message from John and a message from Joe saying, we're going to Wales, we've met this guy, we listened to him, he's great, come to Wales.
We'd seen this giggly little Indian guy with a beard coming on TV, and we liked him, you know, he's a funny little character who's going to save the world. So he came round and we were ripe for saving.
You know, I wanted to get into meditation, but it's one thing reading about it and the other thing of how do you do it. So I got myself to the point where, okay, I need a mantra. You know, where do you go? You know, go to Harrods and get a mantra. But then David Wynne showed me this picture and he said, oh, he's coming to do a lecture at the Hilton. It's called Maharishi.
You give each person a sound, don't you?
Yeah, right.
Now, is that the same sound that you give to each person?
No. Each person gets different.
How many sounds are there?
Oh, there are lots of sounds.
I mean, hundreds or thousands or...
We could say thousands.
And when a person has been given their own particular sound, how do they use it? I mean, when they're meditating, how do they use the sound you've given them? Why is that sound useful to them?
See, every man has his own impulse of individuality. Yeah? Some man goes by and you feel attracted towards him. Other man goes and you feel repulsed. Something exchanged. The rhythm of individual life. Everyone has his own rhythm. Well, now, the rhythm of a sound which will resonate to the existing rhythm of the individual. And that will be the sound suitable to him.
Got it. So that you try to find, give the person the sound that fits in with the rhythm of their own lives and being.
We were at Maharishi's meditation camp and the news came through about Brian. And it was horrifying because we'd experienced loss, but with Brian dying, it was like one of us dying. And you can kind of come to terms with your parent dying because you know they'll probably die before you. With Brian, it was, whoa. And it was such a big part of the equation. People used to call him the fifth Beatle, you know. So it was like, oh my God, now we're on our own.
It was very strange for it to happen at that precise moment. We just got involved with this meditation. You know, I mean, that may not sound like a big deal, but it actually was. It's a big change in your life when, you know, when you start making the journey inward. And for Brian to, like, kick the bucket that particular day, it was pretty far out.
Is the mantra something you use to get back to the subject if you find earthly or irrelevant thoughts intruding? Yeah, or is it more
sort
than that?
of like that. You know, you just sort of sit there and you let your mind go, whatever it's going, doesn't matter what you're thinking about, just let it go. And then you just introduce the mantra or the vibration, just to take over from the thought. You don't will it or use your willpower.
If you find yourself thinking, then at the moment you realize you've been thinking about things again, then you replace that thought with the mantra again. Sometimes you can go on and you find that you haven't even had the mantra in your mind. It has just been complete blank. But when you reach that point, because it's beyond all experience, then it's down there, and that level is timeless, spaceless, so you can be there for 5 minutes and come out. You don't actually know how long you've been there.
Then the aim, as opposed to sitting and thinking or anything, is to reach a point in a sense where you have no thoughts, is it? the word, for instance, the word God, I mean, does it mean something different to you now than it did before Maharishi?
It means all sorts of things to me. It means, I mean, the first concept of a man in the sky, well, I kicked that one a few years ago, but I've got back to that now because it's a man in the sky as well, if you like. It's just everything. The whole thing, it's just everything. Every aspect of creation is part of God.
I think that perhaps we should try and get it a little clearer. What we're talking about, if we're talking about a mystical religious belief, which I think that George Harrison is, but are we really talking about mysticism, or are we talking about a technique of improving yourself, which is totally scientific and rational?
You can take it either way. You can take it either way.
Well, that's easy.
This is because it is a perceptual method. If a man has got a great conceptual apparatus and he meditates, he will begin to understand the nature of a conceptual apparatus, and if he's wrong about it, he will begin to understand where he's wrong about it. If he's got no conceptual apparatus, he simply perceives an abstract experience. Now, when he's had an abstract experience, he may wish then to give himself explanations of it. But it's primarily a perceptual method.
And so what this offers is an experience.
But why should this abstract experience be any more valuable than any other experience? You see, George Harrison talked about a bliss experience. Well, you can have a bliss experience by drinking a bottle of whiskey. Now you get a hang. Why is his bliss experience,
a hell of a non-bliss experience the next
bliss
morning,
experience in any way more valuable than anybody else's bliss experience? Or are we talking about a universe which has some hidden laws and a hidden creator who manifests himself only to people like Mr. Harrison and the Maharishi when they get into a state of trance? That's what I want to know.
Well, let's face it, these laws that you say, hidden laws, they are hidden, but they're only hidden by our own ignorance. And the word mysticism is just being arrived at through people's ignorance. There's nothing mystical about it, only that you're ignorant of what that entails.
He wanted to be a spiritual being more than anything, but he couldn't because he had to deal with this life. So he could be loving because that was really his true nature, and sweet and kind and gentle. But then the anger came from the frustration that he had. When you glimpse something that you understand, but you can't be there because there's something earthly holding you back. And he was very aware of that.
What were the earthly things that pulled on him the most?
The other three Beatles. And what they were creating and were continuing to create, this huge empire, Apple. I think he felt that he'd found something that he totally understood and wanted to just be there, be in it. He became totally absorbed with meditation.
Dear Mum, thanks for your letter last week, and if it's any comfort to you, don't worry about me or don't think anything negative about Maharishi, because he's not phony. It's only the bullshit that's written about him that's phony. He's not taking any of our money. All he's doing is teaching us how to contact God. And as God isn't divided into different sects as the religious leaders here make out by their prejudices, then it doesn't affect my dedication to Sacred Heart in any way. It only strengthens it. But we will help to spread this teaching so that everybody can attain this, and new generations will grow up and have this right from the start, instead of going through the ignorance that seems to dominate everything and everyone at the moment, causing them to feel that it's mysticism or something strange or black magic. Don't think that I've gone off my rocker, because I haven't. But I now love you and everybody else much more than ever. So it's not that bad, is it?